No one expected a routine campus discussion to end in tragedy. One moment, conservative commentator Charlie Kirk was addressing students at Utah Valley University. The next, confusion swept through the crowd as a single gunshot cut the evening short. That night, what was meant to be a debate about free speech turned into a national investigation that has since raised questions about truth, accountability, and how justice operates under public scrutiny. Before we unpack the events and their far-reaching impact, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next major update as new details continue to emerge. Charlie Kirk's death shocked the country. Known for his outspoken views and sharp debates, Kirk had built a reputation for engaging young audiences in controversial discussions. On that September evening, hundreds gathered to hear him speak about political polarization and media influence. Witnesses later described a moment of disarray, a sound, a pause, then confusion spreading across the auditorium. The event was immediately shut down, and within hours, local and federal authorities launched a joint investigation. In the days that followed, the nation watched as officials worked to piece together what had happened, relying on forensic evidence, eyewitness testimony, and digital analysis. Early reports identified a person of interest, later confirmed as Tyler Robinson, a Utah resident in his early 20s. Police charged him with aggravated murder and related firearm offenses based on preliminary findings. According to official statements, Robinson's connection to the scene was supported by surveillance footage, witness accounts, and physical evidence gathered near the venue. Authorities emphasized that their approach was methodical and evidence-driven, avoiding premature conclusions while maintaining the integrity of the investigation. Still, confusion began to grow after an initial FBI update mistakenly suggested a suspect was already in custody before Robinson's arrest had taken place. That inconsistency, though later clarified as a communication error, created space for uncertainty and public doubt. In a digital world where news travels faster than verification, the small gap between fact and interpretation widened quickly. Online discussions began to fill that gap with speculation, not necessarily malicious, but fueled by a genuine hunger for answers in the absence of clarity. FBI Director Kash Patel soon became the central figure in managing public expectations. In his first statements, Patel promised that the Bureau would remain transparent, aiming to balance legal caution with the public's right to know. His decision to address the media early earned both praise and criticism. Supporters viewed it as a step toward restoring confidence in federal institutions. Critics argued that the early release of incomplete information could jeopardize the investigation. Patel defended the decision, explaining that the Bureau faced extraordinary pressure and needed to communicate facts responsibly, not react emotionally. As investigators continued their work, verified evidence began to take shape. DNA samples, matched through laboratory testing, linked Robinson to materials recovered near the scene. Digital records placed him at or near the event site, while witnesses provided consistent accounts of his movements before and after the incident. Prosecutors stated that this evidence would form the foundation of their case when court proceedings began. While officials refrained from drawing final conclusions publicly, they maintained confidence in the strength of the verified evidence collected so far. Despite those reassurances, uncertainty persisted online. In the weeks that followed, public discussions expanded into a web of theories about motive, timing, and institutional handling of the case. While some observers sought to analyze known facts, others drifted toward unverified explanations that blurred the line between speculation and evidence. Social media platforms, often driven by rapid sharing rather than accuracy, amplified these discussions. Some posts questioned investigative timelines or alleged withheld details, though no verifiable proof supported those claims. Law enforcement later clarified that some case files remained sealed temporarily to protect witness integrity and ongoing legal processes, a standard procedure in active investigations. Authorities also issued public reminders about the harm of misinformation. They noted that speculative narratives, even when well-intentioned, could mislead audiences and interfere with legal proceedings. Family representatives echoed this concern, urging the public to remain patient and focus on verified updates. The Kirk family statement was particularly moving. They asked for dignity, restraint, and a commitment to truth above rumor. For them, the flood of online commentary made mourning even harder. It was a reminder that in today's connected world, tragedy often unfolds twice, once in real life, and again through digital interpretation. By late October, the case had shifted from pure investigation to public reflection. The upcoming October 30th court date became a symbolic milestone, a moment when officials promised to release detailed evidence and allow the legal process to move forward transparently. Many viewed it as a turning point, an opportunity for institutions to demonstrate accountability after weeks of limited communication. For law enforcement, it was also a chance to reaffirm that deliberate silence, while often frustrating to the public, can sometimes serve the cause of justice by preventing premature conclusions. In Congress and public forums, the handling of the case became part of a larger debate about transparency in high-profile investigations. Some lawmakers questioned whether agencies should be required to release regular updates in cases that attract significant national attention. Others warned that revealing information too soon could compromise prosecutions and distort jury pools. The discussion revealed a fundamental tension in modern justice, the struggle to balance public right to know with procedural integrity. FBI Director Patel later addressed this directly, saying, "Transparency isn't about speed, it's about accuracy. We cannot mistake public impatience for institutional dishonesty." His comments reflected the Bureau's broader challenge, maintaining trust in an environment where the absence of information often breeds suspicion. Public communication, he argued, must be guided by evidence, not emotion. Yet the issue remains complex. In an age of instant access and viral reactions, public patience has become increasingly rare. People expect immediate clarity, and when institutions hesitate, skepticism often follows. The Charlie Kirk case highlighted how this dynamic can play out in real time, how incomplete details can spiral into larger narratives that compete with official accounts. The result is not always deliberate misinformation, but a collision between public curiosity and procedural restraint. That collision also revealed something deeper, how emotionally invested people have become in stories that blur the line between tragedy and accountability. In the digital age, emotion often outruns evidence. People don't just follow stories anymore, they live inside them. They analyze, debate, react, and judge long before courts do. Every update becomes personal, every silence suspicious, every outcome a test of faith in the system itself. And in this case, that emotional collision was impossible to ignore. The death of Charlie Kirk didn't just spark investigation, it ignited a national conversation about what truth even means anymore and who gets to define it. For many, the case became more than a criminal trial. It became a mirror, reflecting their own beliefs about fairness, power, and trust. The courtroom, in that sense, was only part of the stage. The real drama unfolded in the court of public opinion, on television panels, on podcasts, and especially on social media, where narratives can shift within minutes. People weren't just asking what happened. They were asking why they weren't told sooner. Each unanswered question was treated as evidence of something being hidden. Every statement from the FBI was dissected. Every procedural delay, every phrase in a press release, every change in tone, all were interpreted not just as part of the legal process, but as reflections of honesty or concealment. It became less about law and more about perception, less about guilt or innocence, and more about whether justice itself could survive under such unrelenting scrutiny. As October 30th approached, anticipation reached a fever pitch. Across mainstream media and online spaces, a countdown seemed to form. Analysts described it as the day the truth would finally surface. For months, speculation had filled the void left by official silence. Now, all eyes were on the courtroom, and the question wasn't just what evidence the FBI had gathered, but how it would be revealed. Cable news hosts framed the hearing as a defining moment, not only for the accused, Tyler Robinson, but for the FBI itself. Would the Bureau show its hand with confidence and clarity? Or would it hold back, citing ongoing investigations or procedural limits, and risk confirming the worst fears of a skeptical public? Even those outside the legal world could sense the stakes. Commentators, journalists, and ordinary citizens recognized that this was about more than one man's fate. It was about whether truth could still exist independently of opinion, and whether institutions tasked with protecting justice could still be trusted to deliver it. Legal experts across the country debated what transparency should look like. Some argued that the FBI had an obligation to disclose as much as possible to restore credibility and calm the storm of misinformation. Others warned that rushing to satisfy public demand could jeopardize the fairness of the trial. In their view, justice demanded patience, not pressure. It was a delicate balance, one that no one seemed fully equipped to manage. The FBI, for its part, maintained that its work was guided by evidence, not emotion. But in a world saturated with 24-hour commentary, that message struggled to break through. When people expect instant updates, measured silence can sound like guilt. And when trust is already fragile, even caution feels suspicious. This is the paradox that defines modern justice. Institutions once built on deliberation and restraint now operate in a culture of immediacy. Every decision, when to speak, what to release, what to hold back, is instantly judged not by its legal merit, but by how it feels to the watching public. And that's the challenge. Silence can be mistaken for secrecy, while transparency can be weaponized into premature judgment. A single misinterpreted statement can spark days of speculation, memes, and viral theories. Truth, when delayed, becomes a mystery to fill, and people fill it however they want. As anticipation built, online spaces became divided into echo chambers of certainty. Some users claimed they already knew what happened. Others swore there was a deeper cover-up no one was talking about. YouTube analysts broke down supposed clues frame by frame. Entire communities formed around conflicting interpretations. The courtroom hadn't even opened its doors yet, but millions had already delivered their own verdicts. That's why, for many observers, October 30th wasn't just another court date. It was a reckoning. Legal analysts said it plainly. The FBI's credibility now depended on its ability to present its findings in a clear, verifiable, and consistent way. Every image, every timeline, every word of testimony would be weighed not only by the judge and jury, but by a restless audience watching from home. In the modern world, evidence isn't just about proof, it's about perception. It's not enough to be right, you have to look right. And in an age of deepfakes, leaks, and viral misinformation, perception can be as powerful as reality itself. So when experts said public trust depended not only on what the evidence showed, but on how it was communicated, they weren't exaggerating. They were describing the new reality of justice, a system that must operate both inside the courtroom and across a digital battlefield it cannot control. In that sense, the case transcended the traditional boundaries of guilt or innocence. It became a broader reflection on how truth operates in an age of constant speculation. Institutions, no matter how well-intentioned, are now forced to navigate an information landscape that punishes uncertainty. If they speak too soon, they risk undermining due process. If they stay silent too long, they risk losing public confidence. It's a no-win situation, an impossible paradox at the heart of modern governance. And it isn't just the FBI. Across the world, law enforcement agencies, courts, and even journalists face the same dilemma: how to maintain credibility when every act of caution is interpreted as corruption, and every act of transparency is dissected for hidden motives. In the era of real-time information, the justice system's slow pace feels out of sync with public expectation.
People want answers now.
They want closure, clarity, and certainty. All things that genuine investigation rarely provides quickly. But justice, by design, moves carefully. It must verify, cross-examine, and substantiate. It must separate fact from assumption. And that takes time that social media rarely grants. The tragedy surrounding Charlie Kirk's death, then, has become something larger. A case study in how societies wrestle with truth under pressure. It's no longer just a story about what happened that night. It's about how a nation responds when truth itself feels negotiable. It's about how we, as a society, interpret silence. Do we see it as prudence or proof of deceit? It's about how we treat complexity. Do we allow it space, or do we demand simplicity that fits our bias? The case reminds us that justice requires both transparency and patience, that evidence, not emotion, must guide understanding, and that accountability depends as much on communication as it does on competence. Because even the most diligent investigation can crumble under the weight of public mistrust if it fails to explain itself clearly. The perception of secrecy can undo months of honest work. And yet, constant openness can create its own dangers. Trials can become theater. Witnesses can face harassment. Evidence can be distorted the moment it's shared. It's a balance so fine that one misstep can destroy the entire effort. As the court prepared to unveil key evidence, the nation waited not just for answers, but for reassurance. Reassurance that facts still matter, that process still works, that amid the noise, something steady remains, a foundation of truth that cannot be rewritten by rumor or rage. The people waiting for this trial weren't just waiting for a verdict, they were waiting for proof that justice, though slow, still functions. They were waiting for signs that the system can still separate fact from fiction, order from chaos, and law from influence. And maybe in that waiting, there was a kind of collective hope, the hope that even in a divided nation, truth can still unite people, however briefly. But there's also fear. Fear that no matter what evidence is shown, the damage may already be done. In a world where people believe what they want to believe, can any amount of proof change their minds? Can truth still heal when trust has already been broken? That's the deeper tragedy, not just the loss of life, but the loss of collective confidence. Because once trust erodes, every institution must fight twice as hard to be believed. Every statement must be defended, every action explained. And even then, certainty feels impossible. This is the new reality. Truth doesn't just need to be found. It needs to be defended. So, as October 30th draws near, the weight of expectation is immense. For the FBI, for the defense, for the witnesses, and for the millions of people watching, the moment represents something greater than one case. It represents a test of whether truth can still stand in a world determined to bend it. The courtroom will decide the legal outcome, but the public will decide something far bigger, whether justice, in its slow and methodical way, still has a place in an age of instant outrage. Because in the end, justice is not only about verdicts, it's about trust. Trust that investigations are fair. Trust that truth will emerge, even when it takes time. Trust that institutions meant to protect us still serve the people, not power. Charlie Kirk's death remains a tragedy, but what has followed, the speculation, the polarization, the search for meaning, reveals how much pressure our systems are under. It shows that transparency without patience is chaos, and patience without communication is despair. Both are needed if truth is to survive. So, as the nation holds its breath, waiting for the courtroom doors to open, one question lingers in the air. Can truth still stand on its own? Stay informed. Stay curious. And remember, real truth takes time. Another twist is coming, and you'll want to be here when it drops. Subscribe now and stay one step ahead as we expose what really happened.